Many of our beloved shonen protagonists, while being nervous or lacking in some area of expertise, have strong ideals. They have things they believe in that drive them forward to tomorrow and the next battle, no matter what may come their way. In a realistic hero's journey though, the protagonist is going to face obstacles. They may face something so catastrophic that it upends their worldview entirely, and there is one shonen protag who fits the bill. Yuji Itadori is the main character from Jujutsu Kaisen. From the beginning to the end, Yuji's transformation as a person is tragic and shocking. How did he go from a kid hoping to save as many people as he can to a jaded vigilante cursed by Jujutsu society and humane morals? In simpler terms, what led to the murder of Yuji Itadori and his character? There's a lot to cover, starting off with his launching point into the world of sorcerers. He begins as a regular high schooler in a well-sized town. The countryside is a serene place in some respects compared to the city. Yuji is living his best life, enjoying school and visiting his grandfather in the hospital. His grandpa was the one to raise him in a practical sense. He means a lot to Yuji, which is exactly where the plot kicks off. Yuji's grandfather passes, but with his passing, he gives a dying wish to his grandson. He wants Yuji to spend his life helping others, saving others from their own versions of death. There's a vagueness to this request, but Yuji takes it to heart immediately. It is the crux of his ideals up to the current point in the anime. Considering the open-endedness of the statement, it is up to Yuji, ultimately, to define his own version of saving people, as well as the consequences of not meeting that standard. It's something that is tested again and again by both allies and enemies, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Firstly, Yuji is hit in the face with an opportunity to make do on his new goal. In an adrenaline-filled first encounter, Yuji saves his classmates and Megumi from a curse. His legs were quivering at the thought of horrid monsters, but it didn't take long before Yuji disregarded his own safety in order to rescue others. He'll do this a lot throughout the series. For his character, the struggle doesn't come in the form of wavering confidence, raw fear, or cold feet. It comes in the form of failure. Given who Yuji is, he believes in his physical ability to combat these nasty curses. He's exceptional and monstrously strong. This is where part of his confidence comes from. His intelligence when it comes to close quarters combat is also at a gifted level, given that he didn't grow up in Jujutsu society. For someone who's never had to bear witness to the graphic nature of the sorcerer world, he's plenty capable in a fight to the death scenario. This is the reason why it's all the more heartbreaking when Yuji and his friends come across the cursed womb, a special grade curse against these first years, one of whom doesn't have a technique or control over his cursed energy. Yuji sacrifices himself so that his friends could live. He knew what he was doing when he faced his enemy head-on by himself. Still, in their short encounter, he wasn't expecting to get so overpowered to the point of a breakdown. For a character who is so gung-ho about saving people, experiencing new sensations, and overcoming new difficulties, Yuji faces many tribulations that are forced breaking points. In the reality, he is far from being the strongest in terms of Jujutsu. Him and his allies were manipulated by the higher-ups into taking on this scouting mission, with them fully knowing that Yuji is a fledgling or even something before that point. Smaller than a baby, his physical prowess, no matter how strong for an untrained monster, is nothing without the proper tools to utilize the power system in this world. This time, and many more after this, Yuji experiences an emotion that he swore away when he took up the mantle of a hero: fear. Feeling this sensation causes Yuji to crash in very volatile manners. The trend of these down points being chalked up to fear isn't because of anything external. It is simply the recognition that his abilities aren't up to par with the current scenario. He sees his weakness and fears it. Yuji breaks down and essentially curses himself in the process of death. This would be his final death here and now. However, in the final burst of conviction, Yuji musters up everything he has learned thus far about curses and cursed energy to unleash an attack that, even if small, displays his potential that is unfortunately being extinguished right then and there. Then, in the last second before death, he flips the switch to bring out Sukuna. His relationship with Sukuna is a complicated one that we've seen before. Through much of the anime that has come out now, nowhere in the landscape has Sukuna ever shown sympathy towards Yuji. Rather, much how Jujutsu higher-ups want to stifle his potential, Sukuna wants to abuse it and manipulate it. It's the same side of the coin, but Sukuna has plans while the higher-ups are trying to end any plans there are. We'll see it through the first season at the very least. Yuji calls on Sukuna, begging him again and again to save the day at the price of anything that he can give. In the villainous fashion, he rejects Yuji and his desires. Another dynamic that evolves throughout the story is the relationship between Yuji and curses, with one that is housed within him and is actively giving him power to fight. It was the initiative for his hatred to fester and grow like a mold. Their back and forth is ever changing. Sukuna, no matter the time in the story, despises sorcerers because they are inherently sorcerers. Yuji, however, finds meaning in his being able to serve as Sukuna's vessel. There are implications to him having the soul ability, but as far as Yuji knows, he's someone whose duty it should be to take on this role so as to save those who would die from the remnants of the cursed fingers. I'll remember the second episode of the series for the full runtime of the show. The principal's dedication in determining that Yuji would not curse anyone in his death. Better yet, Yuji understood this and maintained a determination that leads with a no-regret motto. Quite literally, this scene is important up until the very last moments of the manga, but I won't get into specifics. All I want to comment on is that Yuji's duty to this mission, along with his ability and confidence, makes him a rightful hero, but also an easy one to mess with. Between Sukuna and other curses that are prominent to Yuji's worldview like Mahito, they torture him in very evil ways. It could be taking innocent lives or even worse, tormenting them. Yuji, in his promise to his grandpa, is so set on this idea of a proper death that he can't bear to watch these things happen in front of him. It happens with the transfigured humans and the friends that he has to say goodbye to. There are moments, like with the first cursed womb, that Yuji is confronted based on his ideals and goals. Megumi doesn't believe they hold the responsibility to save every single person they come across. At this point, Yuji hasn't seen the full picture of what Jujutsu entails, so he walks headstrong into the problems at his feet without looking towards the horizon. This optimism sticks with him for as long as it can, while his feet get stuck inside the sins and duties of heroism. Between the cursed womb and Junpei's incident, Yuji is given time to train. The Junpei incident itself is treated as a learning experience, all in terms of testing combat effectiveness and Yuji's straight-edged demeanor. In a very human display, his vulnerability is shown in the manner of harm to his friends and innocence. The curses get a rile out of Yuji from doing what they do best. It doesn't take great imagination to figure out what they're going to do going forward. Yuji undergoes even more training during the school exchange event. All of the students from both schools wish to test their might, and our trio of first years are adamant about getting stronger. Ever since the cursed womb incident, it's been the major thing on their mind. After encountering another finger location, they prove their ability to keep up with enemies who have high intelligence and dreadful techniques. Just when things seem like they're on an incline, Shibuya quickly flips it into a downturn. This arc indicates a tonal shift for the series. The dynamics of the characters, the expectation for story beats, and especially Yuji's impact and importance. From the past couple of encounters with curses, Yuji is building up that confidence again that he had in the beginning. During the first fight with the grasshopper in the station, he's able to show off his finesse and power with a fine performance. He does the same with Megumi against the Seance sorcerers, demonstrating the battle intellect that both of them have. This adds to the reasons why it's so shocking how Yuji versus Choso ends. To be honest, both of them can meet each other where they are. While Choso has the advantage in the open station, during the bathroom section of the brawl, Yuji takes command during crucial moments. However, due to this being the first time dealing with blood manipulation, the lack of knowledge got the better of Yuji. There's only so much that he can raw react to. Following his death, fingers are fed to him where Sukuna causes havoc across the city. Knowing that he has full control over the situation, Sukuna does what he does best, which is exactly what Yuji cannot stand, especially knowing that he is a vessel who is typically capable of full control over the situation. His fight with Jogo is torment. His battle with Maharaga is hell. It's everything a curse could ever ask for. Meanwhile, it's everything that a sorcerer dreads. When Yuji awakens from his slumber, he quickly starts cursing himself again. It's a repeat of the cursed wound incident, except with tangible consequence. The crater symbolizes any humanity that Yuji thought he had to be gone. Again, he dreads his weakness. He built up all this confidence over again, learning even more about proper curse techniques drinks and energy usage, this event creates that degree of separation between Yuji, the other sorcerers, and humanity as a whole in his mind. In his fight with Mahito, when he proceeds to lose more than he already has, Mahito repeatedly taunts him by declaring that they are both the same. A curse who indiscriminately kills humans, and a sorcerer who doesn't hold back against curses. They both hold duties to their human and cursed nature, naturally clashing with one another over those ideals. Mahito makes a big deal to point out the fact that this clash, which Yuji thought was about heroism, is more than just superheroes and supervillains. No sane conflict is diluted to that point. Something as extravagant as Jujutsu holds the weight of society in its balance. After processing with Mahito, his friends, and anything said prior to this point, Yuji's identity as a sorcerer begins to warp in this fight. I would call the Shibuya incident the scene of the crime and the death of his friends as a catalyst for Yuji's ego death. Everything he thought he was prior to this point of the fight isn't going to cut it going forward. When he was being inspired by Todo, the change needed to come from within him, not externally. Personally, I love this change of character in Yuji. As he beats down Mahito to nothing but an excuse for a curse, you can see that he has taken things into his own hands. Not in the eyes of heroism, but on the side of good. I would label him as a vigilante, seeing as later, Jujutsu Society would forsake Yuji in favor of upholding tradition. Without the systems to rely on for fair treatment and behavior, Yuji has to control the scenario with his power. Beginning season 3 of the series, there is only one way to grow stronger in the world of Jujutsu. Yuji is shown combating the curses that have been rampant in Tokyo. He feels a duty, not to society or anyone else, but to himself, to eliminate as many curses as he can. As a survivor of that fateful night, he has taken the responsibility upon himself to make that change. That sounds heavy, but as any great sorcerer does, he wears his heart on his sleeve and is unbound to morals that weighed him down before. Without regrets, by carrying his values on him at all times, he is able to move freer than before, whether that be better or worse for himself as a person. Everything that Yuji believed in, the sentiment of a proper death, is still prominent in Yuji's mind. They're the few things that drive him forward at this point. However, he wants to do it his way. It's the same when he considers saving everyone he can. He'll try his hardest to fulfill that dream of his, but something that takes priority going forward, as he has learned from personal experience, is to take up the mantle of those fallen and eliminate his enemies as a sorcerer. The ability to react and adapt. This structural shift in the character is something that can't be rushed or done unexpectedly. With Yuji, he's been given the time to live his youth and dream. Now he has to answer his call to duty. This ego death doesn't need to only be the end of one thing. It can be the start of another, perhaps an even greater path with which one can walk. While we might be on the 3rd season, this is only the beginning for Yuji. Thank you very much for watching. See you all later, you cool people.